and thanks so much for joining this episode of the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. This is an Enneagram and Marriage mini as we give you a quick exercise for healing disconnection in your marriage. I know that happens all the time for couples because we get dysregulated, which leads to some sort of disconnection. And I want to help you through that so badly because I know it steals your precious little time you have together. You guys don't know how hard I fight for my couples to have 6 to 10 hours of just quality time per week and also make that same fight in my own marriage. And just when we finally get those times, I don't want you to have to feel so disconnected. So I'm so proud of you for pressing play because I realize, especially those nines out there, which there's a lot of you, it's hard to do the work of like, ouch, already life is hard. And now you're asking me to process disconnection. So making this as painless as possible since suffering already exists so much at large. I want you to take a deep breath with me and allow yourself just the space of being here, of being present, and allow yourself to notice with me just any areas of tension or stress and give yourself the opportunity to take a nice deep breath so you can really pay attention. And if you're used to our Wednesday episodes that are deep dive episodes, you know we do this all the time in here. And then we think positively for a moment, we get ourselves to that space of really allowing for work to be done. But here and now, just the deep breath is great. Just allow yourself the presence and allow yourself the awareness that when you have a disconnect, what usually happens with a conflict cycle is that you approach it by sharing a hurt. And then that leads to frustration and conflict. And then that leads to disconnect and loneliness. Now, when we walk through that cycle again and again and again, often it can feel like, I don't want to walk through this cycle anymore. So I'm going to stop at step one, even addressing the hurt. And instead, I'll do some of my own self soothing to take care of it. And I absolutely want you to know that sometimes you might be surprised to hear me say that that is the right route. Sometimes you're able to do the work on your own. It was a small injury, or you're able to notice instead of having that quick fundamental attribution error and cognitive bias. We usually have the quick heuristic to say, it's all your fault and I'm good. Sometimes we can stop it at step one. I actually had that today. I was just ranting and raving for absolutely no reason except the fact that I had a hormonal headache. And I knew it. And I was like, Wes, don't pay attention to anything I say for the whole day. Until if I tell you my headache goes away. He was just like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not even being that bad. And I'm like, I think I'm like annoying everyone here so that I will actually get you guys to like not talk to me. And my son just laughed and like I was able to stop any conflicts from happening by sort of just stopping and saying, I don't feel well. And if I'm mean to you, like I'm like anything you say is liable to set me off. And Wes is just like, wow, so good to know that. And so it was really a good moment to say, there's no conflicts needed. There really isn't anything. But many times, guys, many times there is. And even some of those times it's an internal conflict and you can do some internal family systems. And a lot of that might be just your work to do like, hey, it's not hormonal. It's, I have an issue in my life. I need to go within. I need to go to God. I need to work this out. And then later you might tell your partner, like, had a bad dream about you. I had some trigger. I worked most of that out with myself, with God, and later come to them with that. But oftentimes it is this third way of it hurts. It's something between us. It's robbing us of closeness. There's a disconnect. I'm going to go self soothe and do something else. And we're going to be one step away from each other, or maybe one more step away from each other. And these are the times when I really want you to lean in here for just a quick regrouping. And that regrouping looks like of course, the first step is you still have the hurt, right? That's what we're talking about. You've been hurt. Your partner has done something to hurt you. And you're wondering, now you're realizing you've gone through the filters. Is this just my own work? Is this because I'm tired, etc.? All these heuristics. No, I've landed and it's my spouse and my issue. So at that point, the way to walk through it is that you want to make sure that you let them know that it's not a hero villain thing and that they would never intentionally hurt you, that there's nothing malicious about it, but that nonetheless you feel a disconnect between you because of something that occurred. And it doesn't have to be you hurt me using that you language. It might just be like, I feel like we hit a disconnect today when things were said around this topic. However, you say it, I'd love for you to preface that you understand that this is part of life and that sometimes there's disagreements. Secondly, expect pushback. When we talk to our partners, we meet their protective parts, right? When we say, I'm hurt, they automatically put something of a fight or flight up without even trying to be mean. It's just part of life. So, this is a quick reminder to you to expect that. And if you can't expect that or can't work with that energy of conflict, then it's okay to wait and to pause until you can. So sometimes if I'm not at this moment right now, but say I was in the moment where it was like a really emotional time right before a cycle, then I could tell my husband, don't talk to me about it right now because I am in a hormonal moment of my cycle. Or he might ascertain that by looking at my Clue app. But the truth is, my hormonal issue is sadly not even timed up right to be that. That's not even it. Just sometimes, like one of my male clients has said, there's only a week and a half of his whole month where his wife is actually like able to be present without hormones. And I would say that's not necessarily how it is here in our home, but just, knowing that hormones can go up and down for men and women can help you around this area to say, even if I do know it's about my spouse, once again, is this the right time? So that's a good question. And it might be other things like we just haven't slept well. We have a lot going on. In our home right now, Wes has had his injury. So it's like we have to figure out what's happening in our lives to make sure that this is the right time to talk about this. And if it is, then you'll be okay because you're already expecting my partner's going to feel hurt. They're going to give me reasons. There's probably going to be either some counter criticism or some defensiveness, but at least I've set the tone by being regulated. I've set the tone by hopefully taking some deep breaths and also allowing myself to even couch that within the framework of this is totally normal to myself, to my partner. Everyone has disagreements. And then you're going to have to choose, is this an issue that we'll talk soon about? My friend, Christy Rawls, you might know her from Enneagram University, but we'll talk about when one issue is important to one spouse and one isn't, sort of scaling. But in general, just remember, sometimes you might lean in with diplomacy, but sometimes as you figure things out, you and your partner might get to a place where you realize, this one is important to both of us. So we need to have some diplomacy here. We need to meet in the middle. Or this one is more important to you than it is to me. So I'm going to lean in here in a way that I didn't even know. After we got to talking and I heard more of your heart and your story, I realized that maybe this wasn't as big as I had imagined in my own narrative, or it was big, but it was big for you too. And so I can allow some grace for you as well as, of course, the grace we always naturally give ourselves. So these are some ways for you to work through the conflict, but I want you to make sure that you honor the space and time you need. So even if, like I said, you've discovered it's about your spouse and you, and it's the right time to have the discussion, it may be a murky area after a few minutes. You may notice tones are rising. You may say, let's take this on a walk and talk, or let's curb this with an I love you, or it's another term of endearment, and we'll come back to this later. Some of you can't do that. You have a lot of trauma. You need to just leave. You can't say anything nice. So you and your partner have to realize together, what does this look like and how can we make it as safe as possible if we don't get things resolved? Others of you will say, we can't do this in person anymore. Let's take it to text. But at any rate, just know that you have to create a safe place for your partner to be willing to come back. And it can be very frustrating as we cross within different Enneagram types because we might say, gosh, you're a withdrawing type and you can't stay as much as me. Or you're an aggressive type and I'm feeling hunted down by you. Or you're so culturally compliant that I'm feeling like you're not caring for me. There are so many varieties, right, of people that we can have so many different injuries that are the meta narrative. So, one more thing to remember before we close this mini episode out is that when you're in the middle of the discussions, make sure you're connecting with positivity, with logic, and also with passion, with care, so that you don't feel that any of those are wrong or bad. It's important to show care. It's okay to allow some emotions in your voice as long as you're not hurting your spouse and you with over the top emotions. And you'll slowly but surely get to know what that looks like for this marriage. It's only your marriage that matters there. Some of your couples out there will say, "Oh, I don't care if we raise our voices." Others will be like, "Oh, no, 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 I need quiet." So figure out for your marriage, but be passionate, show care, and then also make sure that there's a through line, you're logical, that you're trying to get from A to B, not just go back farther and farther and farther to the past. Know that although those things are important, a lot of those stories we tell about the big picture can be worked out within our own work that we do in our own beds, perhaps with God, laying down at night in prayer time and just allowing, like, okay, we've had these same arguments over the years. God, help me to process that because there's a lot of big picture hurts. And, with a coach or therapist, you can do some of that work too. But know that Rome wasn't built in the day. So it is okay to just take what's here and now and say, let's try to figure out this instance now, even as we honor the bigger stories in other pieces of our work. And then, of course, lastly, the positivity. Gosh, do I love this part. I love this part because it honors our regulatory systems. It honors our nervous system's ways of saying, am I safe? Because my partner is being passionate and logical, but do they also find me lovable? Do they also find me somebody that they want in their lives? Can they also see that I'm lovable, even though we're expressing different experiences and there's some hurt and pain between us? And ways that you can show that might be to offer a little smile, a little laugh, some gentle sarcasm, nothing cutting or too biting, but just a way to say in the middle of it all, like, I'm so glad we love each other because this is a hard topic. And let's remember that together, that I'm so proud of us for doing our work. I'm so proud of us for look how far we've come. But like I said, some of those bigger narratives may sit there, especially if on Myers-Briggs scales, you have a P at the end of your Myers-Briggs. You may say, gosh, I've got some stories in there that I have to work out too, in addition to doing this work with you. So continue your narrative work. Mara was on this Monday to help us with that. Continue your own internal story work, your own internal family systems work to root out any parts of you that are so protective that we're missing taking care of you. And of course, make sure you come back to making sure you're getting your self care, your one to one care with those dates, with your intimacy, and also that you're having your social time too. Guys, I can't tell you how meaningful it's been lately for us to have social care in our lives. We've seen so much love and outpouring for different things. And I've also seen people get really hurt socially too when others have just carelessly thrown their name under the bus publicly. So I hope that you will honor your friendships and true deep relationships with the integrity that they deserve, as well as that you will allow yourself to find safe places to connect and show love and care. Oh my gosh, so grateful. Our friends brought Wes a special chair, and some of you had brought meals or balms. And it's just lovely to have healing community around when you need it. So I am so thankful. I am so excited for what's ahead too here at Enneagram and Marriage. We have some awesome podcast guests coming and awesome ones behind. So make sure you catch up on episodes too. And the book's 1 year anniversary is coming up as well. So Monday, we're going to talk about a contest we have and so much more. So excited to continue journeying with you. Please make sure you take one thing from today, allow yourself a nice deep breath, and give yourself that chance to hang on to a practice today, just something that you're going to bring. And even if it's just, I'm going to get regulated myself, or I'm going to get regulated before I talk about this conflict, but I need to. I'm just so proud of you for doing this work with me. Thanks for being part of this community, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.